Week 3 is here for the Huskers, and they'll have another opportunity to get their confidence up before their first big test of the season, Michigan in Week 4. We're going to break down this upcoming game, but real quick, before we get into all of that, we want to tell you about this channel's new sponsor. Because football is finally back in full swing, and this season we'll be using ProfitX as our go-to for season-long plays and player props. ProfitX is America's #1 sports prediction market, where you can win real money predicting sports outcomes in 40-plus states. And yes, that definitely includes Nebraska. You'll get better odds than traditional sports books because you're playing against other people, not the house. With ProfitX, you can request your own odds, play with confidence, and get super quick payouts straight to your bank, card, or even crypto. And here's the best part. Right now, if you sign up at ProfitX.co or download the app and use promo code RANT, you'll get up to $200 in ProfitX cash on all your plays for the first 30 days. Sign up now at ProfitX.co or download the app and start winning real money predicting sports. Terms and conditions apply. Gary, do you think that this game versus Houston Christian will be a repeat of the Akron beatdown? Or is there a possibility that the Huskies will test Nebraska? I know that sounds crazy, but not only did they already have their own shutout this season, 1 point better at 69, nice, but they did it with 402 yards on the ground, which is where if Nebraska has any weaknesses, it would be.
Yeah, it needs to be. This game needs to somewhat mirror the Akron game. I'm not hung up on the score of this one, just like last week I wasn't. I loved the outcome of the game and the final score, don't get me wrong, but I don't think there needs to be a shutout or it needs to be 60 or 70 points or anything like that. To me, this should be less of a practice for Michigan than if they were playing themselves, practicing against themselves. Like if you go and look at it, we should have a roster full of players that would start over anybody they have. So that's not a slight or whatever else. It's the day and age of college football we're in where guys who are standouts on certain teams, smaller schools, smaller conferences, things like that, get paid to go somewhere else and do something. So it's not a slight on them or trying to overinflate Nebraska. It's just the reality of the way football is now. We should drastically out athlete them. I think they can do more damage, like you said, with the run game, especially quarterback run game, than Akron could do. Their quarterback clearly didn't want to run. He moved a lot in the pocket, but didn't take off very much. I hope he does. We're going to see more of that against Michigan. They're more of a run heavy team. And I want to see guys actually get home to the quarterback, not just run 10 yards past him on the side and flush him out, make him run, but like actually get to the quarterback, record some sacks, create some turnover possibilities with the secondary. There's a lot of talk of how good the secondary is, and it 100% has been good through these first 2 weeks. But I'm curious when we get more of a blend. I don't know that we'll see it this weekend, but when we get to these teams that can give us a better blend of what they're showing us on offense, and they're using the run to set up the pass, and Cincinnati really leaned into the quarterback run game for whatever reason. Like Butler said, it seemed like they couldn't recognize the coverage. So they're like, we'll just drop back and then take off and run. Whether it's a quarterback not wanting to run, whatever it is, when we get to teams that are going to try to exploit weaknesses they think we have and make us defend multiple things, quarterback run game, regular run game, passing game, deep, shallow screens, all those things, I would like to see live game experience or positive results carrying us into the Big Ten play. And I'm hoping that they try to run with the quarterback and it doesn't work because we're stopping it, not just because they're not running. Like I said, I'd really like to see the defensive line look a little bit more physical against an opponent like this. I don't think they're going to look super physical against Michigan, but that defensive line wasn't built to be a physical, imposing defense. It was meant to be more athletic, probably see more stunts and create lanes and things like that for the linebackers to get through. But I'm looking forward to something like that. But to answer your question, yeah, I think we should expect. I think they expect. They're holding themselves. I'm sure you saw at this point, I'm sure everybody's seen Matt Rule's halftime speech. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly why I was upset after the Cincinnati game. That's what I loved seeing in the Akron game. That's what I expect to see this week. If they don't post a shutout, Okay. I mean, you get second and third and deeper string guys, you have some mental mistakes or a little bit out of line and things happen late. Great. But I don't want to see our starters struggle in any facet of the game. And like I said, those few things are what I'd really like to see improvement on. And then other than that, aside of getting guys a little bit of work and hopefully getting guys like Emmett and Raula and some of the receivers and stuff like that out of there a little earlier than they did last week. It'd be nice if they're done by halftime. But I don't to answer your question, the other part of your question, I don't think they should give Nebraska any trouble, but I hope they give us some really good looks at things that clearly need work before we get into Big Ten play.
I just can't help but shake the feeling that if Nebraska doesn't almost repeat what they did versus Akron, it's going to get people upset. People are going to be frustrated. See, we could do it against Akron, but we can't do it against Houston Christian. I guess that's the only downside to this week is for some people, they're going to have to repeat what they did. And that might be tough to do, man. 68-0 is crazy. I was thinking about it today. We gave Holgerson all this credit for his offense putting up 68 points, but I think it's awesome that both of our coordinators who are new within the last year kind of pitched perfect games. 68 points on the board and a shutout.
And a ton of it was with backups, like deep into the roster.
Yeah, Matt Rule's halftime speech was inspired. And I think it's a perfect example of why we fell in love with him last year after one of those losses. I can't remember which one it was, but you could just tell he got the right brain for the job. What are you thinking for a score for this game?
I would say I think I would expect Nebraska to win by upper 40s, 50 points. Whether that's with a shutout, whether they give up some garbage touchdowns at some point, or somebody has a gaffe at some point that goes for a touchdown. It's like, okay, there's going to be the idea that you're going to play an entire game with zero mistakes is just insane, right? So it's just, where's the mistake at and how noticeable is it? So kind of touch a little bit on what you were saying with they're going to say, yeah, you did that against Akron, but that's going to happen either way. If Nebraska comes out and beats Houston Christian by 80-0, and then has a close game against Michigan or loses to Michigan, it's going to go, yeah, if you can play Akron and Houston Christian all year, you're a pretty good team. But if you can't, like, no matter what, that's not going to go away. That's going to be a thing, whether they win, lose, look good, look bad in a win or a loss or whatever. That's going to be a narrative. And there's nothing you can do about that. That's why I always try to stick to the only test you can pass is the one given to you at that moment. And they did. You're right. They set a new bar after last week's game, at least when it comes to opponents like this, right? So, but that's what you want. That's what the good teams do. We haven't been able to set a high bar like that in years past, even against bad teams like that. Like Scott Frost got fired because he lost, the day after he lost to a Georgia Southern team that you were supposed to beat up on, and you lost at home at night. So there's growth and there's steps in the right direction. And if you come crashing back down to earth when you go into Big Ten play, okay, but you still have already done something in winning a close game and making really bad opponents look really bad against you that you haven't been able to do in years past. So I'd like to see that trend continue. Of course, I'd like to see him go beat Michigan after that and go on a tear the beginning, if not all of the Big Ten up until Penn State. But, some rebuilds and some growth happen in bigger spurts than others. Some are slow and steady. Some go up and then down and then back up. We just got to wait and see. But if you want to stay consistent per the new standard you've set, you need to go out and look really impressive on this game. And to me, that's a higher 40 to 50 point win, regardless, whatever the score may be. I would really like to see, and I kind of expect to see a return for a touchdown, whether it's a punt or a kick. It seemed like from game 1 to game 2, obviously the opponent was drastically different, but from game 1 to game 2, it looked a little better. Barney almost broke the one. I think that improvement you're starting to see has a lot to do with confidence and urgency of them wanting to do that or trying really hard to kind of get through that hump or get over that hump of not only are we fielding balls without dropping them, we're getting some returns. Let's break one. I think they're going to push the issue a little bit more this week, and I'd like to see that happen. So I'm not too hung up on the score, man. Like I said, 40 to 50 points I'd be happy with. Anything under that, it's kind of like, Jesus, you stalled out against these guys.
I know it sounds crazy, but I'm kind of expecting the exact same or slightly better. So it is insane to be saying the words out loud that I expect another 60-plus point game, but I actually do. And then we'll see a completely different situation the week after versus Michigan. Tell us what you guys think in the comments, though. Do you guys have any score predictions for this one? We'll see you guys for the live stream Saturday early 11 a.m. Until then, go Big Red.